It's been a while since I've done this. Now, this video is going to be released months from now, but just so you know what point of my life I am in right now in January 2021, I haven't been able to do that much of a story Loviana because I had a job. It was a temporary job, but it was a job. Hence, the new green screen. Now, whilst I was stood there without the ability to sit down, listening to the same Christmas music and surrounded by screaming children, customers asking really inane questions, be quite surprised, and slowly losing my insanity as I realized I had absolutely nothing to do but stand still for 4 hours a day, listening to the same music on repeat over and over again as my anxiety rose to a fever point, I asked myself a very interesting question. What would happen if we drained the Forth?
Untold ecological damage.
Okay, other than the ecological damage.
Unbelievable economic damage.
Okay. Other than the utter economic devastation.
The Pfeifers will come.
Okay. Other than that, we would actually find quite a lot of archaeology in the form of shipwrecks. The Forth, being rather a major shipping channel for thousands of years, has resulted in it being the place of many different shipwrecks. Now, we're not going to cover all the shipwrecks in the Forth in this video, but we will be covering a few. So come with me as we explore the shipwrecks of the Forth. Can I stop smiling now?
Let's do a quick thing about aircraft carriers. You're likely aware of aircraft carriers as these massive beasts that act as runways in the ocean. They're big, they're expensive, they take a small city to run, and they are popular with the Americans and are just as much about power projection as they are about travel. In short, they are the Hummers of the seas, except aircraft carriers are probably more fuel efficient. Now, if one of those sank in the Forth, I wouldn't be talking about it because everyone and their mother would be talking about it. But believe it or not, there is an aircraft carrier at the bottom of the Forth. The HMS Campania started out life as the RMS Campania and was a Cunard liner on the Liverpool to New York run. She was built in 1893 and won the Blue Ribbon for the fastest crossing of the Atlantic. Her career ended in 1914 when she was sold for scrap, but because of World War I, she was requisitioned and taken to be converted into an aircraft carrier. Sit back and think about this for a second. She started out as a Blue Ribbon liner and then got converted into an aircraft carrier. Now, if you're thinking of an aircraft carrier like we have now, think again, because rather than having planes land on the deck, which was hard, she had seaplanes take off from the deck and land in the sea so they could be lifted back onto the deck with a crane. In short, not exactly Top Gun. Her main roles included anti-submarine and anti-Zeppelin patrols, but she was eventually declared unfit for fleet service and became a training ship for seaplane and balloon pilots. She nearly survived the war as well, but on the 5th of November 1918, she sank off Burnt Island after a Force 10 squall forced her to drag anchor, collide with the Royal Oak and the Glorious, and then finally sink beneath the waves. No lives were lost, and the blame was placed on the watch officer for not dropping her second anchor. The wreck still exists and can be found at the What 3 Words location, graceless.texting.rotation. Several attempts to disperse the wreck have been made, but they have all only been partly successful. As a result, the wreck still exists on the seabed at a volume of 200 by 20 by 8 meters on the seabed. Her Majesty's Fishery Protection Vessel SWifa, or SWifa, is interesting because if you have a boat, you can, hypothetically at least, visit it without going diving. She started out as the RV Ernest Holt and was built in 1948 and was a fisheries research vessel built for research in the North Sea. She had a career and a name change when she was transferred in 1971 to the Scottish Fisheries Protection Agency and became the SWifa. She remained as such until 1980 when, on the 31st of January, she hit some rocks off Inchkeith and sank. but only partly. As a result, she was blown up as a shipping hazard, but this didn't stop her keeping her head above water, and at low tide, and with the help of a boat, you can go visit her. The events of the Podarosa incident was a comedy of errors. In fact, calling it a Podarosa incident makes it sound more ominous than it really was, but it really was just a comedy of errors. She was built in 1875 in Newcastle, but she was bought from original owners in 1896 by Russell, Miller, Husky and Co. based in Leith. Her career with this company didn't last long. She left Menful on the 23rd of September 1896 with coal for London, and then went from there to Archangel in Russia, which is a hell of a long way. Seriously, there's a canal there now, but back then there was no canal, so they had to take the long way round. On leaving Archangel, she damaged her propeller. "We damaged our propeller," said the crewman. "What should we do?" "Meh. We'll just continue with it until we get back to Leith." It did not continue working until they got back to Leith. The Podarosa carried their cargo of wood from Archangel to Amsterdam with a short layover in Hammerfest due to a storm. Fun fact, Hammerfest is also a music festival in London. In 2022, the lineup apparently included Eurovision winners Lordi. Anyway, enough about metal. They got to Amsterdam, yeeted their cargo, and went to Grangemouth, but 28 hours after leaving Amsterdam, their propeller fell off. So they were drifting in the North Sea, which is a bad thing to happen to someone. Luckily, her distress calls were answered by the John Bull, which came to their aid and towed the ship up to Grimsby for repairs. Thinking it would pass the worst events, they set sail for the Forth, but they ran aground off a place called Scohall between Dunbar and North Berwick.
"Nothing bad ever happens to the Kennedys! Wow!
"Okay, no biggie," said the captain. "We can refloat her. Let me just contact the office." But before he could do that, the ship was battered by the waves and basically became unsalvageable. "Heck," said the captain. "The wreck is still visible at Scorecard Bicker Vineyard, but not much of it remains because it did run aground well over 100 years ago." What if I told you that just after the war, the Royal Air Force fired upon a Royal Navy ship, sinking it in the Forth, in an event that barely anyone knows about? I promise it's less dramatic than it sounds. Or is it? So let's start with the ship, the HMS Ludlow. The Ludlow started out life as a USS Stockton and spent the First World War as a convoy escort and anti-submarine ship. Yes, this ship was once a US Navy ship. It was decommissioned in 1922, but in 1940 it was bought by the Royal Navy, recommissioned and named the HMS Ludlow. The Ludlow spent the war as an escort ship out of Rosyth until she was decommissioned on VE Day. So how did she end up getting attacked by the RAF? Simple. She was taken just off North Berwick and used for target practice. After we were done firing several holes in her hulk, it was apparently sold for salvage, but she was never collected. And as a result, she is now still just west of North Berwick. This is the most grim part of the video, and on top of that, the only submarines in this video. Submarines in World War I were not safe vessels, and this is a firm example of this. And on top of that, the circumstances around the sinking of these subs were just absolutely tragic. First, we need to talk about the Battle of May Island, which happened off the Isle of May and wasn't really a battle but a military exercise gone very, very wrong. Down the Rabbit Hole has already made a video about this and explains the blow-by-blow events better than I ever could, albeit with mispronunciations, so I will point to his video, but the long and short of it is this. On the 31st of January 1918, thick fog, 2 unexpected ships and a faulty rudder, as well as poor communication, led to 2 sunken subs and 105 sailors dead. Some of them run over by their own comrades as they tried to get rescued. It was one of the worst military disasters seen during World War I. The Navy's reaction to the event wasn't any better. The details found during the inquiry into the disaster were kept secret until 1995 to save face, so everyone involved would be dead before the full details were released. The inquiry recommended that Commander Ernest William Lear, who led one of the groups on the exercise, be court-martialed for negligence, but the court-martial came back not proven. In 2002, a memorial cairn was placed in Anstruther in memory of all those who died that day. The wrecks are at spinoffs.caveman.prosecute and feature the wrecks of K4 and K17. Both wrecks are now protected sites and were surveyed as part of the Nershnagura wind farm project, and both lie close together on the seabed. They are a grim reminder of one of the worst days in British naval history. So, an undiscovered shipwreck full of as of yet unfound treasure sounds like something from a kid's pirate story, right? Sounds like a hastily written story you'd find in the kids section of the works, you know the type. Well, what if I told you that not only is there a treasure ship in the fourth of all places, but nobody really knows where it is, meaning it's still out there, waiting to be discovered. Let's talk about the Blessing of Burnt Island, which, yes, is a real ship name. We don't know too much about the Blessing of Burnt Island, other than that in 1626 it received a letter of marque to attack enemy shipping. So, not only is this shipwreck a treasure ship, it's also technically a pirate ship. Now, how it sank has to do with Charles I, who, out of all monarchs past, present and future, is probably my least favourite. I mean, literally after being crowned, he started several wars. It was the 10th of July 1633 and he had just been crowned in Scotland and was doing a tour of the place. Next stop was Edinburgh, but he needed to cross the Forth. Problem was, there was a storm. Now, most sane people would probably stay a bit and wait for the storm to pass. Not Chucky here. He had two ships, one with all his valuables and his flagship, and of course the one with all the valuables started crossing first, and Chuckers the First got to watch the ship from his flagship as the ship capsized and sank with all his gold and jewels on board.
Nothing bad ever happens to the Kennedys! Wow!
This should have probably been a moment of reflecting for a curly-haired smug boy. Maybe he shouldn't have been so impatient and waited for the storm to pass. Alas, it wasn't, and instead he blamed witches in Lancashire for some reason and had them put to death. Now, nobody has found the wreck, but potential sites have been found, including 16th to 17th century bolts and shoe leather, but no gold, silver or jewels. The Secretary of State has already placed protections on the treasure, wherever it may be, so if you're going to go look for treasure, please bear this in mind. So anyway, if you excuse me, I'm going to buy a wetsuit, some tanks, an underwater metal detector, and go look for the treasure, because to be very frank, I could do with the money. If you think this is too risky, you can donate to my Ko-fi, but even so, I think I might have a chance of finding this treasure. I have a really good feeling about this.
Oh, I bid farewell to the port and the land, and I paddle away from brave England's white sand to search for my long ago forgotten friends, to search for the place I hear all sailors end. As the souls of the dead fill the space of my mind, I'll search without sleeping till peace I can find. I fear not the weather, I fear not the sea. I remember the fallen, who they think of me, when their bones in the ocean forever will be.